Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our March 2nd council meeting. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Ball?
Here.
Approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 16, 2015. Any additions or corrections?
Make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting of February 16, 2015. Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval manifest 2015-4 in the amount of $391,415.90. Good.
I'm surprised everybody only got one. Page 4, right in the center, Coleman Engineering at 14,000. Didn't we approve that already? Sorry, 17,082.
14th Avenue design?
Yeah.
No, I just received that last week, and so now we're paying them for the design.
Well, we approved the project.
We approved the project, but we hadn't made payment on it yet.
For some reason, I thought that we had the whole thing on it already.
No.
Joe. And I think that's about the only thing I got.
Hey, Chris.
A couple here. Page 2 under police. The Canon copier contract of $315. Was that in the quote when we bought that new copier for them? Or is that a different copier they have?
I have to get back to you. I don't believe that was in the quote.
Okay. I don't know if that's for the new one or if that's from the previous one from a prior
Yeah,
month. but-
I'll have to get back to you because the quote pretty much was just the cost of the copier.
Yeah, because $315 seems kind of high for that, what we paid for that copier.
I'll have to get back to you.
And then more of a comment that I'll probably bring up again at the end of the meeting, on page 6, under electric. It's kind of a holy crap moment when I looked at the bills for stuff going down at the hydro, so I think I'll wait for that at the end of the meeting, but
Okay, that's fine.
that's all I have.
Dr. Hayes.
Where's O'Reilly Auto Parts?
It's in Iron Mountain, in front of where the Wells Fargo is. And
That's what I thought. Why are we buying coolant and fuel filters from?
Because Rick checked some pricing and they were less expensive than somewhere else. I mean, I know he opened an account there. As soon as they opened up, he went and got an account there.
50 cents a mile to drive a car, then it's $5 to drive there and back, and plus the time.
And I'm not sure if we're picking it up or it's getting delivered, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
I'd have to check
Well,
on
if
that.
it's delivered, then I can see where you go with the best price. And then one other question. We got Cold Patch from Payne and Dolan. Are they the closest supplier? Is that the best price? Is that why they're...
That's a special cold patch. It's not our normal cold patch. We bought some cold patch. We had to go to Escanaba to get it. It sticks in the winter in the potholes better than the other cold patch does. So yes, we had to go to Escanaba to get it.
That's all I had.
Lee.
I have nothing.
I have nothing either. So with that, I'm looking for a motion to approve.
Motion, we approve manifest 2015-04 in the amount of $391,415.90.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Joe. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes, but abstain from the GO-TEC charge.
Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Does anyone from the audience have any questions on the minutes manifest or any agenda items? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
There'll be a further time for comment on any subject at the end of the meeting. Okay, seeing none. First thing we have on our agenda this evening is appointments and presentations to the Downtown Development Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This next item is, it's a pretty hard item. This is a presentation or a appointment for membership on our DDA. A seat was currently made available for the untimely passing of Jim Moore. And Jim, everybody who knew him, he was highly involved in just about everything that he decided to get involved with. I mean, he was a really good member of our DDA. He represented Coleman Engineering. Coleman has an office on our Main Street. And, with great regret that the tragic accident that took Mr. Moore's life. But as business, we have to move forward. And that open seat on the DDA, one of the things we looked at, we had only one extra application during our recent December openings, solicitations, and that was from Ms. Barb Thorne, and she wanted to have an opportunity to sit on the DDA, representing, of course, Swedish Passport. And so, rather than take time and re-advertise it, we had just done that exercise. We're recommending that the staff is recommending council appoint Ms. Thorne to the DDA. She is also on our planning commission, and she's very active. She's actually the chair of our planning commission, so we're happy that she's interested in serving, stepping up and serving for our DDA. So.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Otherwise, you can prefer motion.
I also see that she's been very active in the Leif Erikson Festival.
She is, yeah. She is chair of the Leif Erikson Committee, and she does a great job at keeping, that's a very difficult festival to run, so.
No further questions, or I'll request that we have Barb Thorne fill the expired term for Mr. Moore.
Second.
Motion made by George, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
In the communications this evening, we only have two items. The first one is the approval Sturgeon Falls Hydroelectric Facility Hydro Runner 3D scan. This is something that we have actually already begun and already started. Last week, we needed, in order to get it done in a timely manner, so we could get the dam back together for runoff. Joe had called and told the council as to whether they were okay with it or not. So tonight, we're approving what we had already decided to do last week. With that, Joe.
Just to let you know that the people that are doing the scan showed up this afternoon and ready to start at 7 a.m. in the morning with the scanning.
Can you just explain what it is we're doing?
Sure, yeah, I certainly can. In order to try to figure out why some of the blades in the first three runners were cracking, and the last one lost a couple blades, or more than a couple, lost several blades, we have to try to figure out why that's going to happen. And this is the first process in figuring out why. You do a computer scan of all the hydro components, and they make a model for a computer in 3D, and then they have a flow analysis done by another engineer that does the flow analysis when you add water to it to see how the water reacts with going through the wicket gates, going through the turbine, going through the draft chest, and ultimately through the draft tube to see if there are any deficiencies in that whole process. And once we complete this effort, we will have some good quality answers and a lot of very good data detail on our hydro and how it works. So we can come to a conclusion as to if there's anything we need to do to change a draft tube configuration so this doesn't happen again, or if it ends up being an issue with a runner or whatever it happens to be. We don't know yet what it's going to be, but we have to go through this process. Are there any specific questions regarding it?
Has the metallurgy analysis been done?
Yes, it has. Yep. And guy from Green Bay, I can't recall the name of the firm right now, but it was a real reputable firm in Green Bay that came up and did the testing. We found out it's all made out of 36A material. And then he made suggestions on where to add some weld and some extra supports to weld in place. And he gave us a welding procedure. And the people that are welding it were then certified by this metallurgy company to do the welding. And now they're welded up, and we're getting the third one tomorrow. The fourth one is going to take at least 12 weeks to get repaired because it's a substantial amount of work. We have to make some new blades for it and stuff.
So we're gonna run it with the three that we have for?
Yes. Yes, we are going to run it, and I would go into that in more detail after the meeting when Chris asks his question. I'll get into that more, but yes, we're planning on running it with 3.
Joel? Two questions. In the past, a while back, you were using instruments to pick up sound for bad bearings and stuff like this?
Yes, there was a company that we used on the high-speed unit to pick up bearings noise.
Okay.
Correct.
Could any of this been used, or was it, didn't anybody detect, I mean, I'm not trying to pinpoint anything here. If any of this wasn't noticeable or couldn't have gotten picked up, say, at an earlier time where we wouldn't have had the damage we have now?
Well, I mean, it's under about 8 feet of water,
Yeah.
so you can't see it. As soon as we heard a noise, we shut it off to investigate.
Okay.
Yeah. We had dewatered it 2 times in the 5 years for a very short amount of time. We went down and we just ourselves took a look at the runners. We didn't notice anything happening to them. And so we watered it right back up and ran it again because there was a lot of water this past year. And so water carries noise pretty good. So as soon as we recognized it, we turned it off.
Okay. On Hydrotech, on their quote here, Joe, how many different men? I see you got a scanning technician for 16 hours, and then you've got
A mechanical guy, yeah.
another specialist for 16 hours. What, are there 4 men involved
There's
here?
only 2 guys,
Okay,
yep.
okay. That's all I have, Jerry.
Any other questions or comments?
One little comment, might be kind of small, but I hope they're staying in town. I see there's 2 nights and 3 days of food, estimate $200. I would like to think that they're staying in one of our 2 local inns.
I have no idea where we're staying.
Why don't you check with them and just ask tomorrow, Joe?
Okay.
Okay. If there's nothing else, I'm looking for a motion.
We never went over the cost of the analysis then?
You mean when I received
Scan-
it,
the scan
when I
says
when I received the quote for 15,000? Did I go over it?
No. The analysis of the information that's obtained from the scan. Because there's no point in doing the scan if we don't go through the analysis.
We're going to. That's the intent of doing it, is to go through the
The
analysis.
motion is to approve that $40,000 plus dollars.
No, this motion is going to be to approve the 3D scan, the first piece of a 2-piece And I have the other information also, I just haven't brought it to you yet.
We had some things we had to.
There's some
work out.
questions I had to clear up today before I could bring it to you. I had some concerns.
We had to move because the equipment's going back into the pit. So yeah, we want to have an open pit in order to do the scan. So that's really where the urgency is. We had a couple questions on the proposal for the actual analysis, and we're getting that straightened out. So we should have that at the next meeting. So there's not a big push on the analysis side, as a, because that's basically a hydraulic analysis mixed in with a finite element analysis on the steel of the runner, and you're going to see what the forces of the hydraulics is doing with the current runner configuration. And we're going to have 3 of the 4 runners operating, so that's not going to affect those runners until we have low water, take them out, we decide what we want to do with it. If there's recommendation for change, or if there's, like on the end runner, that, like Joe said, it's gonna take 12 weeks, and we gotta figure out if that's something that we need to make some design changes on it, or not. So,
Well, I just mention it because I know there's a significant cost, and there's no point in approving the scan, which is already down there
Well,
started, without approving the analysis.
right, if you want our recommendation, I'll just give you my personal recommendation. We need to do whatever evaluation we can, analysis we can on both hydraulics and other configurations. So we know what the best orientation of the equipment should be for those pits. And, so when the next piece comes to you, I know we don't have it approved now, but we're going to highly recommend we move forward with that, so that's going to be with us forever. The pit configuration and the draft tube configuration, until such time as you want to change the draft tube, they're going to be with us forever, so, that's why it's kind of broken up this way. We needed to get that scan done while there's nothing in the pit, so.
Well, I just thought you might mention that this is just the first part of the puzzle.
Okay, sure.
It's mentioned.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve Hydrotech to perform a 3D scan on generating mechanical components, for a price not to exceed $15,400.
Support.
Motion made by George, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Ball?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Last thing on the agenda this evening is approval of ordinance 416. Amend ordinance number 365 to establish automobile and winter parking restrictions for city-owned parking lots on Main Street. Fairness.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular amendment or ordinance, this came up through a conversation with the police chief on the new parking lot over on the corner of 8th and Main. That parking lot was paid for, built, championed by the DDA, add some parking onto Main Street, and Chief mentioned that it's not part of the original ordinance for overnight parking restriction. And remember back, the reason we did that on the parking lots is so that we can plow the parking lot. We can at least plow it out clean, odd, even, so we can get it cleaned up. It also provides parking for anyone living on the main street. So what we wanted to do was add that to the ordinance, and it's on the odd side of the road, so we just have it as an odd date. So it's ordinance 416, simple revision. Now, we did not go through multiple hearings on this as far as readings. It's a pretty simple ordinance. We've done this in the past when it's very simple and straightforward. The charter mainly stipulates, or really just stipulates, on how we post it afterwards. It doesn't have the readings of what new charters or updated charters have. We put that in place just to have good communications. But again, this is so straightforward that we just bring it forward now for approval.
And so this would have the same date restrictions as the Sixth Avenue one does now.
It does. Everything's the same in the ordinance, it just adds that language to it, that it would include it.
Ray, are there signs supposed to say on the side of the building?
There, on the two, under 365, the first two, there are.
Okay.
On this one, we'll have to make a sign.
I guess, noting that even on odd days, I guess,
Right.
so, I mean, if you're parked there, you know.
Yep, it's-
if you're allowed to, or if you should move over to the other.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's right on the buildings.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion that ordinance 416 be approved and staff be directed to make publication and notice as charter mandates.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Godstein? Mr. Ball?
Yeah.
And that's our business this evening. Does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on any topic? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Mark Poblani, 1051 Murray Road, Norway. I was wondering if anybody on the council had came up with any solution to how we're going to recover the money lost for the utilities for multicolor. They have about $130,000 utility bill as far as water and sewer with the projects coming. And the funds have to be held in a positive manner for the water. I think that's what it was running, Mary? About 125, 130 a year
Yeah, I
annually?
would say that's close. I don't have it right in front of me, Mark, but we had put together a spreadsheet on that, Ray, if you remember the number or not. I've got it.
I don't remember the exact
Yeah.
number, Mark. I know one of the things that we're pointing out is that on the revenue side, you're right, especially on electric and water, you know, you have a substantial revenue number. But on the electric side, you also have we have a substantial expense
Purchasing.
number by the purchasing power because they're a high demand customer.
I was
On the water
basic-
side is where we're
basically on the
concerned
water,
about.
yeah.
We're concerned about that and, you know, we're gonna have to, you know, we're kind of stuck between, we had quite a loss from last year that we have a claim in for on all these freezes. We have another, again, it's not nearly as severe as last year, but there's still additional costs this year. So, you know, it's gonna be you know, we're evaluating on how we're gonna recover
I
from
mean,
that.
because you have substantial water projects coming, right?
Yep.
This year, and the fund
Well,
is-
it's not this year, but we have to deal with, probably within the next 12 months, we're gonna have to, you know, have that.
Because I don't know
account
the amount of, how many water customers in the city do you think we have?
Yeah, about
14.
14 to 15.
Because that's going to be a substantial amount on everybody's bill, so I think that, you know, maybe you guys should be looking at some sort of throttling back in different areas and so that fund can stay healthy. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council? Okay, Lee.
Yeah, I see it's pothole season again, although I don't believe they're nearly as bad as last year. Hopefully all that work we did past summer and the extra money we spent is going to hold up. And also would like to congratulate our girls basketball team, who's probably halftime now up at Westwood in the girls Class C district. That's all I have.
I can say, Lee, with the potholes, at least in my area, none of the ones that we filled this past summer have come out yet. So they're still holding up.
We go on different roads. I've hit a few. But
They're
it
still-
seems a lot better than
well,
last year.
The ones that they filled are still, at least by me, they're still filled. So. And I did see the crews out filling last week, and they weren't following proper technique.
They were following?
They were
Oh,
following. I watched them as I went by. Dr. Mason.
I was just wondering how much money we've spent so far on thawing out pipes this year.
How much money? Well, last week we asked us how many freezes we had, so I had that number available, 50. We can get the number together, but we actually haven't been totally tracking the dollars because of labor, you know. We know the number of people that are on runs.
We know how much you pay for that.
Right.
You know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, But you know, we're at 50 thaws right now. We have roughly 90 to 100 on runs. You know, we have to actually sit down and do some calculation on overtime numbers, and, I mean, we've been tracking the information, it's just, don't have the exact number right now of the actual cost. So,
Well, I'm certainly grateful that Peterson Welding is here in town, can unthaw the pipes, but I still wonder why we didn't spend this $7,000 on a portable welder, since we call out 2 men quite often anyway.
Anything else?
No.
Chris?
My main kind of question and comment is on the project we got going down at the hydro. Just seeing some of the numbers come through on the labor that we spent so far. I know electric is one of our healthier funds, but this wasn't exactly a budgeted expense that we were preparing for. Joe, do you have any ideas on, I guess, where we're at total cost right now, and where do you think we're gonna be at, and how it's gonna affect the fund going
Yeah,
forward?
currently we're at 205,000. We have approximately 1.5 to 2 weeks to start the unit up with the 3 runners that are repaired. Then, as Ray had pointed out, and myself, that it's 12 weeks for the other runner to get repaired and put in. And so Mary and I had a discussion when this first happened, and we talked about money and looking at the fund. And we were blessed with an extremely good water year. And we budget about $1.3 million for purchase power. And we were in the $300,000 range for purchase power to date. And we felt that with the projection that we have, we would almost be equal, meaning that what this is going to cost plus what we're spending in purchase power would be normally what we'd spend in purchase power. So it doesn't, this particular situation doesn't have an effect on the rates, because we believe we're going to handle it within the fund itself.
Okay.
Okay. And with that said, on Thursday, we have, Ray and I and Mary have a meeting with the Hartford Steam Boiler Insurance Company. I did file a claim, and we're going to be reviewing our claim on Thursday to see if there's any coverage. We do have a $25,000 deductible, but, you know, if it ends up being a covered claim, then we'll recover quite a bit of the money. So,
Are you assuming it's gonna be more of a claim versus original manufacturing defects, or are we still kind of waiting on results?
we're waiting on results of the scans, the flow data that come back. We don't really know, and I can't really comment because I don't know what it is yet. That's all to be determined. You asked about where do I think we're going to end up? Somewhere between 340 and 380 at the end of the day is what it'll cost to get that repaired.
Okay. That's all I had.
Good.
I got just a couple. Ray, have you made any progress here at one of our budget meetings? We talked about Kurt and the golf course.
I'd like to defer that comment. I don't like to talk about personnel during open meeting.
Okay, fine. Also, Joel, something that I've been asking since I've been on the council is, and I'd like to get high up on your priority list of cutting down these boulevards this year alongside the highway. About taking it anywhere from 6 inches to a foot of sand off of all of them, and it would certainly be nice if we could get it done early in the season, so the grass could be replanted and possibly grow. Maybe we can get something to come back in there.
Okay. Yes, you have been asking for a long time about that.
I know I have. That's why I want to start early, and I want to get it high on the list. Also, on our council comments here from Mr. Anderson, the first topic manifests our CAT department, Packer line billing questions. there seems, I don't know how to address this, but if you read this first paragraph, why are the council asking questions about billing and catching them here that are slipping through the office? If you read this first paragraph, and then this come out, evidently, I think Chris is the one that asked the question. Evidently, this is slipping through the office somehow, because there's a $1,500 oops in here someplace, or on trunk fees. Why we're not more on top of this thing here to catch these things? My point is, why are the council catching them? I basically, and I think possibly is that somebody isn't comparing the contract that we got with them, matching the billing that we're getting from them, to come out and say, well, you're billing us for something that shouldn't be in the contract, or vice versa. This has happened a number of times already. That's why I said, Jesus, why, say Chris, why is Chris asking these questions, and this stuff basically should be caught someplace else?
That $1,500 though, we have been paying that all along, George. We were paying it to Suite 201, and then we were paying it to Packerland. I don't know what's written in that paragraph, but we've been paying that every month.
Well, it says here, excuse me, Mary, the IP trunk line fee was charged at 20 trunks when we only have 8. That's where the billing error came in.
But weren't they always charging us 20?
But we only have 8. I mean, it's
But
right here.
We do only have 8,
Right.
so there was an error there, that is correct statement.
They changed software and don't need to charge us the $1,500. I think that's where the Suite 201, I mean, we were required to pay that when we were using that Suite 201 software, but there was a change made, and I think what it was is they were paying for a software that wasn't theirs, and then they developed the software. And so we were able to save monies on that. It doesn't in the contract. The contract says we pay the $1,500, but, so, I mean, that's where that one went.
But how long has this been, did this just happen? Or
Yeah,
did
it hasn't been that long.
I mean, it
We
just,
had that.
Ray, I'm just asking a question.
Yeah.
It's funny that, we're picking up mistakes here. That
Well, we don't find it particularly
I don't know
funny.
how
I
well
mean,
this
we
is
want
a contract either.
yeah, I mean, we don't find it particularly funny. I mean, we take it seriously. It's just, we work with Packerland, and when there's an issue, they come up, they make good on it. As far as the trunk lines and the SIP lines and those are things that, it's hard to catch on our part because that's not part of our business. I mean, we appreciate Chris being, and, he's able to see that. I guess that's something that we have to.
That is my question. I mean, I'm not pointing fingers at nobody. Don't we have somebody, or aren't we watching this close enough?
Well, that's not really a fair statement. Are we watching it close enough? I mean, yes, we try to watch it as closely as we can. Sometimes, we can't, sometimes it's hard to read. Sometimes it's hard to read. We rely on our partners a lot, and that's, and I appreciate Corey, as soon as we asked the question, he dove into it, and, he's the one who he's the one who figured that out for us, and, we're getting the credits on it. So, we take whatever help we can, but, I mean.
No, well, it was just a question.
Sure.
And I thought, geez,
Yeah.
it's funny that this is occurring, and it really shouldn't be. Somebody should be catching this someplace along the line, but, I know it's happening. That's all.
I don't have anything. Joe,
I have nothing further unless there's any specific questions about hydro-related things or stuff like that.
with the, I'm seeing a lot more, storm drains. Are the crews able to get out and start, now that we're getting a little fine, we lose these few days?
I've pretty well tied up the steamer this week and last week at the hydro dam. We had, because of the major cold snap, we had a lot of ice formation inside the pits where we need to work, and so we've been steaming that. So I've been taking it down to the hydro. We should be done with that midweek and not need it anymore. And then David and I had the conversation today that we'd be getting out. I think it's going to tighten up again a little later in the week after the snow tomorrow. It's supposed to drop down into the single digits again for a couple days. But then the long-range forecast is right in that 30, 32, 34 degree, and then maybe a little warmer next week. So, but the intention is to get out and start steaming catch basins when that happens.
Mary, Tricia? Grant? Nope.
I'm,
Okay, with that, we're looking for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion made by Chris, supported by George. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Ball?
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.